Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Elise. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are here to kick off my International Booker Prize reading vlog and I'm very excited. I did this last year for the first time and I'm really excited to do it again. I don't do this every year by any means, but when the list looks really good, I want to read from the list and I want to read numerous books from the list. So I will not be reading the entire long list. I am not that type of booktuber, but I will be reading the ones that I want to read and chronicling my journey with it. Firstly, I'm just gonna briefly go over my reaction to the long list. I'm filming this when the shortlist has already come out. I've been busy reading the Republic of Consciousness Prize. I'm getting to this one later, but I'm okay with it. I'm also not the type of booktuber that's going to read it by the deadlines for the prize. So if you too want to go at a slower pace, you're in the right spot. So I'm going to talk about the long list as a whole, maybe even talk about the short list. And then I'm also going to talk about what I'm personally interested in reading and the potential TBR for this video. I will link the prize website down below in the description notes so you can see more information about each book and see if you want to know more, because I'm not going to be doing like a synopsis or maybe even like talking about every book, but I will put that down there. In terms of the long list, the Booker long list always consists of 13 titles, the Booker dozen, and I would say there's about half that I am interested in. Firstly, I've already read 2 of the books because 2 of the books were also on the Republic of Consciousness Prize this year and I read it for that. So those are On Earth as It Is Beneath by Paula Maia. I can't remember who the translator is on that. I'll put it down below. And that is published by Charco Press. And then the other one I have below my laptop right in front of me. I can grab. The other one that I have read is The Remembered Soldier by Anjet Daanje. This is translated by David McKay and published by New Vessel Press. So these 2 I have read and I really enjoyed both of them. I love this one. This is what won the Republic of Consciousness Prize and I loved it. And then On Earth as It Is Beneath, I really enjoyed. I think it's a great novella. But to me, it doesn't stand up to The Remembered Soldier. So those 2 read, thoroughly enjoyed. So that's already a good sign for the list. And then I own one other book off of the list, and that is The Wax Child by Olga Ravn. This one is translated by Martin Aitken, or at least he does her other ones. So I'm assuming it's not on the front. New Directions, why? Okay, it's on the flap. Yeah, Martin Aitken. And this is published by New Directions. So this one I own. So obviously I will be reading this one because I already own it. I love this cover with the coffin smoking. So this is a definite for me. And then I will say the other 2 that I am most interested in reading are not out yet in the US. So, and I think maybe even like not out yet in the UK either. The other 2 that I really want to read are The Witch by NDiaye. Who translates that? Normally Jordan Stump is her translator. So again, I'm assuming that one, but I'll double check and put it below if it's wrong. The reason why I did not have this on my radar is because this is NDiaye's first Big 5 translation and publication in the US. She has previously been translated and published in the US by Two Lines Press. And I really only research independent publishers when I'm looking at my anticipated releases. So I did not know this existed. And last year, NDiaye had a book on my favorite books of the year, her creative memoir, Self-Portrait in Green. I loved it. And particularly what I loved is the writing. I love her writing style. So I'm very happy that not only does she have another book out, but it's been nominated for a prize. That one comes out on April 6th in the US, I believe. The UK cover is so much better. So this is one that I want to read from the library and then purchase it from the UK if I end up loving it. So that one I definitely want to read and I will read for this, but I need to wait until it comes out and then see if I can get it. So I guess subject to me being able to get it from the library. And then the other one that I'm really interested off of the list is Small Comfort by Yagenberg. Is that her name? I don't have the names in front of me, so I'm going off of memory, which is probably not a good idea. So let me look. Okay, and this one is translated by Kira Josefsson from Swedish. She was longlisted a year or two ago. I haven't read anything by her yet, but this is a short story collection that sounds really good. It's talking about money, which I think is fascinating. So I want to get to that one. In the UK, it's published by Wildfire Books. Here, I'm not sure who it's coming out from. I'll put it down below. But this one doesn't come out until June in the US. So my guess is I won't be able to read this one for this video. I'll probably read it later in the year. But know that it's one of the ones that I'm most interested in. Of the rest, because the two others outside of the one I own are subject to me like being able to get it, I want to talk about the other ones that I think I'm gonna read because I know I can get them. I am also interested in The Nights Are Quiet in Tehran. This is by Shida Bazyar and translated by Ruth Martin from German. And the short little blurb on this one is set across 4 decades from 1979 to 2009. This is a polyphonic novel of one family's flight from and return to Iran. I know a lot of people have been saying this, but clearly this is a very relevant book considering the US has started an absurd war with Iran. This one sounds really interesting, and this one I think I can easily get from my library. I've already had a little bit of a check, so I think I'm gonna read this one in this video. Another one that I know I can get right now is Women Without Men. This is one of the books that was originally published in Persian years and years ago, I think like 30 years ago, but the translation has just come out. So this one is written by Shahrnush Parsipur. When I start reading it, I will look up the pronunciation. And translated by Faridoun Farrokh. And again, translated from the Persian. And this one, just a really brief blurb, says an internationally acclaimed novel that traces the interwoven destinies of 5 women, including a wealthy middle-aged housewife, a sex worker, and a school teacher, as they arrive by different paths to live together in an abundant garden on the outskirts of Tehran. Also sounds like a banger. So that one I'll read for this video. And then the others that I'm considering, depending on how long I want this video to be, is I will say I'm very interested in The Duke, but that's not published in the US, and I want to wait until I hear more reviews about it before I import it. So I'm interested in that one, but I'm probably not going to read it. I really want to read She Who Remains, which is the one about the sworn virgin who is like going to be sold off essentially into this arranged marriage, and she doesn't want to do it, so she becomes a sworn virgin, which basically means that she needs to live like a man and all the implications of that. I really want to read that one, but it's not available at my library, so I think I'm going to try and purchase it. And then the potential other one that if I can get from the library I might read is The Deserters by Mathias Énard. This is translated from the French by Charlotte Mandell. This one is about war, hence The Deserters, and I think it's told in like 2 halves, 2 different narrations. And because I like this so much, I normally don't like reading about war, but because I love this so much, I think I'm more open to it. So this is also a potential. So to do the quickest recap, the TLDR is I've already read 2 books. I will for sure be reading The Wax Child, Women Without Men, and The Nights Are Quiet in Tehran, because I have access to those 3 now. So for sure read those 3. And then potentials, if I can get them, are She Who Remains, The Witch, and The Deserters. The rest I'm not interested in reading, or I know I can't get them. But the last thing I want to say in this very long introduction is, can we talk about the cover of the director? What is this? This UK cover I do not like at all. I know other people have been saying they like it. All I can see is the thumb people from Spy Kids. Like, why does it look like this? Why does it look like this? Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So please tell me your opinions on the director looking like the thumb people from Spy Kids. And with that, we will leave the clip and I will check back in with you once I've started some books. Hello. I have read the start of The Wax Child. She's very shiny, and I'm here to give you an update on it. I think I'm 100 pages in, so I'm a little over halfway, And so far, I'm really enjoying this. I was a little bit nervous that I have bought Olga Ravn's last 2 books and I haven't read them. And I picked her as an author that I want to read multiple books from this year. I was starting to get in my head of like, am I just imagining that I like her? I did like The Employees, but like it wasn't a favorite book of the year or anything. And the writing is spectacular. So I'm very happy to report that. I'm gonna read you the beginning of this because it just immediately struck me as like, oh yeah, I made a good decision. She's a phenomenal writer. No matter what the story is about, I think like her writing just does it for me. So this is the very first page. It's titled A Rumor of Witchcraft. I'm a child shaped in beeswax. I am made like a doll the size of a human forearm. They have given me hair and fingernail parings from the person who is to suffer. I was born by my mistress for 40 weeks under her right arm as if I was a proper child, and my wax was softened by her warmth. After this time, she took me to a pastor. It was night, the church was dark and still, and he christened me the wax child. That was the first paragraph, and it's just so captivating. I love the transition between the long drawn out sentences and the short clipped sentences. That oscillation just works really well for my brain. And I think it's very impactful as a reader. And this also gives you a good introduction to what the book is about, because this book is written from the perspective of a wax child, so a wax figure that her mistress has made. Her mistress is named Christens. And this book is inspired by actual witch trials, and Christens is an actual person. And I know that Olga Ravn spent like 10 years researching this in order to write the book. I think, what is the time frame for this? 17th century. Yeah, we're following Christens, who is a witch, maybe. She is a noble woman. And early on in the book, she is accused of witchcraft by another woman whom she often attends the births of. And this woman has had many, many miscarriages and loss of children, and accuses Christens of being a witch and cursing her. And that's why her children keep dying. So Christens ends up fleeing to a different town and meets a collective of women there that she quickly falls in with, and they become deep friends with one another. But the rumors of witchcraft follow her along the way. And again, all of this we see from the perspective of the wax child, who feels a lot of devotion to her creator and can hear conversations happening from other people. So all of a sudden we'll like shift into the king's perspective, and the wax doll will tell us a little bit about the king. Sometimes the wax child is with one of the other women, and we get a little bit of a story around them. And yeah, I'm just really enjoying it so far. I like the perspective of the wax child. I think it's a really smart, interesting way for us to have a narrator who can see more than the characters in the story, but cannot see everything, and can have a unique perspective in which to judge and observe humanity. And I really appreciate those observations that the wax child has. And ultimately, I think this book so far, you know, I'm over halfway through. It's really just about women, right? Like the relationships between women, the way women have been persecuted over the years, men's fear of women, especially when they're gathered together and when they seem to have any sense of power, even if that's just the power of not needing men in their lives, and the retaliation of that. And then you add on the like historical aspect of this, that it's rooted in truth, and I think it just adds an additional weight of like sorrow and defiance and lots of other emotions. So I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm glad to be back in an Olga Ravn book and to be captivated once again by her storytelling. So those are my thoughts on The Wax Child thus far. I will check back in with you once I have finished it. And then I am about to start Women Without Men, because I got that from the library. So I'll be checking in about that one soon as well. So there we have it. I will see you in just a little bit. Hello, welcome back to the show. I have many updates to give you today that I'm probably gonna have to break it up a bit, otherwise we will be sitting here for forever. But also, I'm just looking at myself for the first time today, and my hair has dried very weirdly this time around. It looks different every day, but that's on God. That's not on me. I'm not gonna worry about that. So let's go ahead and chat about the updates that I have for you. First one is The Wax Child. I have finished The Wax Child, and I don't know that I have a ton more to say. I have a few additional things to say. It is very short. Overall, I did really enjoy this one and continue to really enjoy Olga Ravn's writing style. And I do think that's probably the thing that I love the most about this book. Some additional things to discuss that I didn't mention before are there are multiple spells that are throughout this book that really give that eerie, witchy, but also like very human pagan vibe. It feels very much like old wives' tales and remedies, like medicinal remedies that people would do, sometimes for someone's good health, sometimes to wish someone ill will. And I really liked the insertion of those. It made it all feel very human, and honestly, this is a personal bias maybe, but it made it all feel so unbelievable, right? That like what these women are doing, it's not doing anything. Like they're playing to a certain degree. I know that people at that time put maybe more stock in these types of pagan rituals and remedies and potions, but we can sort of see it now as like, I don't know, it's like wishful thinking. It's like manifesting, right? Like I see no true danger in that to a certain degree. And to know that these women were actually killed for doing stuff like that, I think as a reader now in the modern era gives like an additional layer of tragedy that someone could be killed over like having ill will towards someone else and maybe taking some actions to practice out that ill will in a tangible way for themselves. Does that make any sense what I'm saying? Maybe that was very confusing, but yeah, it was something I was thinking about as a modern reader of something that happened in the 1700s that I think layers on to like just how easy it was to kill women, honestly. I think that's a lot of what this book is trying to force us to grapple with is, I mean, these were all real women that are mentioned in the book. We witness 4 executions, although you get in the author's note that there were a number of additional executions that aren't specifically mentioned in this book. To know that like someone could be killed because they tried to like exert some power for themselves, it's just so tragic and horrifying that women can be like captured, tortured, killed. And I appreciate that Olga Ravn is trying to give space to these women who lost their lives. The other thing that I think this book does really well in regards to that is it shows not just men turning on women, but women turning on women. And I think it really parallels modern times with like, particularly if I'm thinking in the US, middle-aged white women who tend to like lean into their privilege and into the patriarchy because they can get a little power from it themselves at the cost of other women who are not as privileged as them. And it gave me that same vibe, but just in a more ancient way, where we have these other women who, because, and there are multiple, because bad things are happening to them, they want to blame it on women that they see as beneath them or women that they can have some type of power over, whether that's because they have a more privileged status or because they know it's what the men around them want to hear, right? Like I thought that was very interesting to think about in a modern context. So yeah, I think this book is doing a lot of very smart things. I don't know if what I got out of it is what the author was intending, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it, and it made me hold some reverence for what has happened to women before me and really deeply think about the ways that I see gendered power and privilege playing out now. And I really appreciate it for that. And I'm sad that it wasn't shortlisted. So that is The Wax Child. Then I have to tell you about a DNF. I DNF'd Women Without Men. I don't have it with me, so I can't remember the author or the publisher. I will put them down below, and the translator. I'll put all that down below. But I ended up reading the first 2 stories of this, which is actually about a fourth of the book, and I really did not like it. I do want to say though that I strongly believe why I'm not liking it is the translation. So I was reading the US edition, which was translated into English a long time ago, and this writing felt so clunky to me. It felt like it had been translated more like word for word, and grammatically I think just did not make sense. And I do lean on more on the side of like, I want the translator to be true to the work, but to also understand that linguistically things are going to feel a lot different depending on the language that it's being read in and the culture that it's being read in, and make it a more seamless experience for the reader. And I don't feel like that was happening here. And it was highly distracting to the point that I didn't want to read it anymore. So all that to say, DNF this one, think it's the translation though. And then the other book that I have started is The Nights Are Quiet in Tehran. So I have a little bit of B-roll because I've been listening to this on audio. So I have been listening while I've been walking around and walking big. So lots of spring flowers to show you here. I am now 60% of the way through, and I am enjoying it so far. I'm not enjoying it as much as The Wax Child, I will be honest, but I am enjoying it enough to want to keep going. So far, we have gotten 2 different POVs, one from a man and one from a woman. I'm currently in the woman's perspective. And this is about rebellion. And in the first perspective, we're following this guy who is a part of an underground movement to overthrow the current government power because they're very corrupt. And we follow them as they do this. This is not a spoiler. So very early on, you see that they are able to institute a new government power, but then that government power ends up being kind of just as bad as the previous one. And so they're kind of trying to do it again. And we get a lot of his, I would say, more philosophical musings on power and community and the role that protest takes in nations and governments. And then we switch to the female perspective, which is also engaged in politics and protest. But very interestingly, the female perspective is not in as philosophical a way as the male perspective. It is in a much more practical way. So we're getting a lot about domestic life alongside politics. We're getting political conversations while they're at the hairdresser, while they're making food, instead of the male perspective where he's like at a safe house talking to people who are there to carry out a covert mission. The women are like engaged in a much more domestic way. They're talking about children in a much more practical way. So like, how am I going to find someone to watch my kid while I go do this thing? How is my child being directly impacted right now by the current government? And the male perspective is philosophically like, what can we do for children of the future, right? Like theoretically, what world do I want them to be in? And I feel like that dichotomy is very interesting. And I also think kind of transcends culture in a way. If you think about women-led movements or women-led initiatives during wartime, it is much more focused on the practical day-to-day, how do we keep things going? How do we feed our families under rations? How can we support politically what we want to support by providing resources, by providing labor, time, by caring for the wounded? I think it's just fascinating the way that it's setting it up, and I'm really enjoying that so far. So I will check back in with you once I have finished that book. Again, I'm about 60% of the way through, so it shouldn't be too long. And then the other update, last update I have, I swear for this, is I have purchased a book. So let me grab it. Actually, I forgot to grab it ahead of time. All right, we have She Who Remains. I picked this up yesterday, the day before, I don't know, sometime recently. This is by Rene, Karabash, and it's published by Sandorf Passage. This is one that has been shortlisted. I've heard amazing things about it, so I felt comfortable enough purchasing it because my library doesn't have this. So the only way I was going to be able to read it is if I purchased it. So I decided to pull the trigger on this one. So now that I have finished the Wax Child, which is the one that I was reading physically, I'm going to switch over to this. So I will check back in with you once I've started it, and I will see you then. Welcome to the update. I have several updates to give you, and Big has joined us once again for the updates. I have since finished the audiobook for The Nights Are Quiet in Tehran, which is by, let me double check, Shida Bazyar, translated by Ruth Martin from the German. And I will say, like, my overall enjoyment of the book, I think, remained the same throughout. That for me, it was more middling at the end of the day. Something that I didn't realize about this book, probably because I read it on audio, that I realized once we finally got into the third perspective, is that each perspective is a generation down. So we're following this like lineage of a family and how they're impacted by the political landscape around them. And I do think that was really interesting. I liked that we got to follow the generations and to even see how, not just how politics do have a deep impact for generations to come, but also how political engagement looks differently from generation to generation. I wish it had taken that further than it did. I think this book is really plain for me. I can like really stripped back prose, but this book did come across as plain to me. Like, it didn't engage me as much as I wanted it to. Like, if I think to other writers who have a very straightforward way of writing, like Annie Ernaux, that still is so interesting, and I feel like the style adds to what she's trying to do. This, I don't feel like the pared back writing added to the story for me, and I just kept finding myself wanting more, like take it further, and I wasn't really getting that from it. So this one I think is okay. It isn't one that I would necessarily recommend off of the list, but I think in terms of like looking at a generational experience of Iranians, that is the thing I got the most out of it, of just being able to like observe and witness that. So I enjoyed it for that reason. So that is The Nights Are Quiet in Tehran. This one did get shortlisted, but it's not one that I think I would have personally shortlisted. And then I have also started 2 other books. I started The Witch by Marie NDiaye. This one's translated from the French by Jordan Stump, and I was really looking forward to this one because I have loved her writing before. Last year, one of her books was in my favorite of the year, and I'm pleased to say the writing style is still phenomenal. And I'm listening to it on audio. I was a little bit nervous to do that because I love her writing so much. I thought I would at least try it because that hold came in first, and then if not, I would switch to the ebook of it. But it's still coming across in the audio. And the beginning, I've only read like the first like 30-40 pages of this. I'm really loving it so far. We are following a mother who is a witch, and at the very beginning of the novel, she starts training her 2 twin daughters to come into their powers, and their magical abilities really mirror puberty and like getting your period. There's a lot of stuff around blood. So they like cry tears of blood when you complete your tutelage and are ready to have your powers. And there's a lot of parallels to like becoming a woman, becoming an adult, being seen by others in a different way. And I'm finding that very interesting. I'm curious to see where it's gonna go. I'm thoroughly enjoying that so far. So I have high hopes for that. And then I also had some free time at a park recently, and I luckily had a book in my bag and was able to start She Who Remains. So I will show you the lovely reading experience I had. So far, I have read, 37 pages of this, and I'm also enjoying this one. There's so much dog hair on this. This is written almost in like verse. It's got a unique prose style where we have some sections in verse that kind of look like that, and then there's longer paragraphs. It kind of feels like diaristic, like a journal. It's got that first person narration style, which I find really captivating when a book is really trying to be like a character study. So this book is all about our protagonist, who is Albanian, and this book is exploring an actual Albanian tradition, which is becoming a sworn virgin. And our main character decides to become a sworn virgin. You know from the blurb that is in response to an arranged marriage that's about to happen. And I think like that day or the day before, they become a sworn virgin, which means becoming a man. So you swear an oath to act like a man and take on male roles in society, in your family. We're getting these like snippets. Again, it's kind of diaristic, and we're starting to get a sense of this, like it seems like a very rural Albanese town that they're living in that is sort of known for its blood feuds. And in the present day timeline of this, it's in a non-chronological timeline, if I didn't already say that. Matija is one of the only people that still lives there, and you start to gather the sense that Matija is relaying their story to a journalist that they have as a guest in their home. And maybe that's all I'll say about it for now. I don't want to kind of spoil all the plot of this book because it's very short. But yeah, I'm really captivated by it. I like the device of our main character or protagonist narrating their story to another person, but really enjoying this so far. Very unique, and we'll see where this leads. So I will check back in with you once I have read more and probably finished The Witch and finished She Who Remains. So I will see you then. I'm here to give you a couple of updates like usual. So first update I'm going to give you is I have since finished The Witch by NDiaye, translated by Jordan Stump from the French. This book I overall enjoyed. It's sort of not what I expected, but I think last time I had just started it and I was talking about the relationship between like becoming a witch and puberty, and I do think that kind of continues throughout the book, because to me this book is all about power, specifically power within gender dynamics, and we're getting to see that through a number of the female characters in the book and how they relate to the male characters around them. And we sort of get a lot of representation on how women in the novel deal with that differently. So we have main POV, which is the mom. Her powers are very mid, right? She's very honest about that in the beginning. Her powers are very mid, and it's because she does not really access them, right? Like she doesn't access this intensity of feeling that could maybe provide her a level of power out in the world. And then we have that juxtaposed to her own mother, who is a much more powerful witch, and her daughters, who are much more powerful witches. And we see how that power plays out in their lives, and almost like there's a fear of themselves in the grandmother's case. Like she's sort of like afraid of her own power and what she's gonna do, and she tries to keep it like locked away and hushed and secret because of that. And then the two girls who are very empowered and emboldened to live their life and be free. So we get lots of like interesting representation, and I thought it was a well done book overall. I don't think I loved it as much as the other book I've read by NDiaye, which is the creative memoir. There's something about this book that just felt a little bit too flat for me, and maybe that's also because I felt like the ending was a little bit flat. It all made sense, and I think it was all well done, but I just wanted something to like take it to the next level for me, and that didn't happen. So overall, enjoyed. Think the writing is still beautiful. I think she has such a way of crafting sentence structure, so it really flows easily in your brain. And I think even speaking it out loud too, you can get the like sense of flow, and I just love that about her writing. I like what this book was trying to say. I do think it's a little bit more on the simple side, but I'm okay with that. So that was The Witch. And then my other update that I have to give you is I have DNF'd The Deserters. I don't even know if I told you I started this book, but I did start it, and I got, I think, into the 5th chapter and decided to DNF. Let me check who this is by and everything. I have my laptop down below so I can take a look because I can't remember everything at this point in time. Okay, The Deserters. This one is by Mathias Énard, translated by Charlotte Mandell from the French. And the UK edition that's up for the prize is the Fitzcarraldo edition. There's a different publisher in the US. I'll put it down below. I can't remember. And obviously I was reading from the US edition because I was reading it from my library. This one is the one where it's like 2 different storylines happening at once, and you alternate chapters between the 2. The first storyline, you're following a deserter. So he has clearly deserted from the war and is out in the wilderness trying to like travel and find his way and not get caught. The other POV is a group of people who are on a river cruise line. They're clearly a part of a like philosophical, spiritual movement that they all believe in and study and work in, and they're there to discuss things. Now, I was really much more interested when I started the book in the deserter POV. I really didn't care at all about the other one. So that's one reason why I DNF'd it. But then as I got into the 3rd chapter of the deserter POV, I was also like, when I first got there, I was like, okay, I'm back in the perspective that I like more. And even that one, I was like, do I honestly care? I don't think I still care. So I just didn't care about the book. It just was not intriguing me at all. And I didn't want to read it. I didn't want to push forward. So that one I gave up on. Maybe it all comes together in the end and it's lovely. I did not give it the chance to show me that, and I'm okay with it. So I DNF'd The Deserters. So really the last thing that I have for this video is finishing up She Who Remains. And then I'm gonna be done with my reading for the International Booker Prize, at least for now. So I will check back in with you once I finish this, and we'll wrap it all up. I do think that this video is going to be up before the winner is announced, which I am surprised by, because normally I read things at a much slower pace. So I will see you before the winner is announced and give you my thoughts on everything I've read, rank them, and pick my own winner. So I will see you then. Hello, we are here to finish this vlog because I have in fact finished She Who Remains. So this was very interesting. I gave you a brief synopsis earlier, and I think that's all I want to give you about the plot, although this book does have a ton of plot in it. It is very plotty, but it is told in like a non-chronological, almost like mirrored way. So you'll get phrases, sentences, sometimes full paragraphs that are almost exactly the same as one that came before it, but it will have a slight modification or like a slight change in the context in which you're reading it in that changes the meaning, which I thought was fascinating. It's such I feel like a unique way to play with memory, which this book is often doing. We will get like passages of a memory told multiple times and get like slightly different perspectives of it. And yeah, this book, similarly to The Remembered Soldier, is a lot about like memory and truth. Who owns that, right? And if that can even really be a thing, and also has to do with trauma impacting that. So there are lots of intersections that are the same, but a wholly unique experience. The other thing that I would say about this is it does I enjoyed the letter portions, I think, the most. I thought they were beautifully written and really embodied like the style of the character that's writing the letter, because there's letters from a couple different ones. And I loved how that played out throughout the narrative. I also really liked the relationship between the brother and sister, Bekaja / Mataja and Saleh. There was something so heartfelt and tender, and you felt like longing between the two of them, like sibling longing for one another and for the like mistreatment of each other in the past. And I thought this book did it really well. So yeah, definitely a standout part of this book for me. So that is She Who Remains. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Get why so many people are liking it and picking it as sort of their favorite on the list. So now I want to do a ranking of all of the books on here. So I DNF'd 2, The Deserters and Women Without Men. So I'm not going to rank those because I didn't finish them, and they would be at the bottom for me because I didn't finish them. But I think of the others I finished 6, is that right? I had previously read 2, which was The Remembered Soldier and On Earth as It Is Beneath. And then for this vlog, I read another 4. I read The Wax Child, I read The Witch, and I read The Nights Are Quiet in Tehran and She Who Remains. So those are the 6 that I'll be ranking. So from the bottom to the top, I think at the bottom I would put The Nights Are Quiet in Tehran. That book had some things I really liked, but it also had some things that I didn't like, and I think just felt a little flat, felt a little bit too basic for me. So that one's at the bottom. Then after that, I think I would put The Witch. Similarly, like I love the writing in that. I think that one's like a step up because of the writing alone. But in terms of the structure of the novel and the plot and the character development, also felt a little bit flat. Both of those are short. A lot of these are short, and I think maybe that might have something to do with it. So that one's next. Then after that, I think I would put maybe The Wax Child. I think I'm gonna put The Wax Child. I really enjoyed this. I think like these now we're getting into like, I wouldn't really change much about them. This was so atmospheric. The writing was amazing. I think it really represented the complexity of women so well and the violence towards women really well. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then I would put On Earth as It Is Beneath. But I would say On Earth as It Is Beneath and The Wax Child are like basically the same level for me. I think the narrative of On Earth as It Is Beneath just sticks in my head a little bit better, so that's why I'm putting it above. But that one, yeah, very interesting on like our internal moral hierarchies and the subjectivity of that, and how easily that can be manipulated and justified into us doing horrible things. And then after that, I think in second place, I would put She Who Remains. I thought this was doing so many inventive, unique things on top of being well crafted and having great character development. I loved the letters. I loved the passages that were in verse. I liked the like retelling of different passages, and just like honestly plot really unique as well. So really enjoyed this one. But of course at the top, nothing was gonna beat this. Nothing was gonna beat this. It has to be The Remembered Soldier. This book is so good. It's so good. I cannot believe this was not shortlisted. It is phenomenal and does a lot of similar things to this one, but I think it's such a layered text that builds all of the themes and the messages and the questions it's trying to ask the reader into so many different aspects of the reading process. And the craft of that, I think, is just such a feat, as well as being very emotionally resonant at the same time. There's not a single thing I would change about this book. I think it's really like a perfect book. It accomplishes exactly what the author is trying to do, I think, and it accomplished everything that I personally want from a book. So that is The Remembered Soldier. So that is my ranking. Please let me know what you thought about any of these books if you have read them, or if you've read other ones from the list that I didn't get to, and you feel like they're really worth talking about because you love them or you hated them. Let me know that as well. And yeah, I would say overall successful International Booker Prize year. Let me know what you thought of the International Booker this year, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.